Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to this very special edition of Atlanta Business Radio. It is time for Atlanta Cares, brought to you by our good friends at Atlanta Planning Group. Now, here's your host, Grace Hayden.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I'd like to give a special shout out to our two most loyal listeners out in Wilmot, Wisconsin. And we're going to start off today. We've got a great lineup as per usual because there's tons of talent in the Atlanta area. But we're going to start with Miss Ashleigh Poff, who is a passionate, charismatic event strategist and community engagement project manager. She's built a network focused on social impact initiatives and cause-driven activations and experiences. She's facilitated over $2.6 million in value and contributions to global causes and in the business of providing meaningful ways to invest in a better world for over 10 years. Thank you so much for joining us, Ashleigh.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us your story. What brought you to Atlanta, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Are you trying to insinuate I'm not a native?
I don't know. I may have done some research before you came in today.
So I moved to this beautiful city about 10 years ago and just kind of fell in love with all of our civic-minded projects that we have here, and was able to kind of cultivate a valuable service to businesses that are interested in making the world a better place in Atlanta and beyond.
Very nice. So where did you move to when you first got here?
I had never been to Atlanta. I just kind of drove through on the highway before. I didn't know anyone here, and I found my place on Craigslist. So that when Craigslist was safe, I guess.
Right, yeah.
So found my place on Craigslist on the way down, and I was like, Sunset Avenue. That sounds like a beautiful place to live.
Very peaceful.
Yes. Yeah. Great city views. So it was actually in the west end of Atlanta in a really impoverished area, and so my first friends, my neighbors, those were the people that really introduced me to the city. And I got a glimpse of what growing up in the west side of Atlanta was like. So that really cultivated a lot of my love for doing good in this city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you knew you wanted to kind of show off the civic-minded people that we have here and do good for the city. But was it an easy transition for you, or were there some challenges along the way?
So I think it was a big culture shock moving here, definitely. I thought things like this only existed on TV. I didn't really understand what the situation was in the South. And so I think really educating myself and spending time and just listening to people and listening to what I can do to support them, as a friend and a neighbor was very impactful in my journey here in Atlanta. I think being an entrepreneur is challenging in itself. It's definitely the hardest thing that I've ever done. And I've moved to a new city and didn't know anyone. So I think just being an entrepreneur in itself and learning, the business acumen associated with having a fruitful business is a big challenge.
And so you're doing it. You have a successful business. It's called Industry Impact. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we provide project and event management for businesses that are interested in investing in causes. So, you can't watch a Super Bowl commercial without a beer company trying to tell you about clean water. So it's really important that businesses are investing in the communities around them. And so, we kind of come in, and when you don't have the capacity or knowledge, because it's a relatively new, business practice, we come in and provide those services and kind of act like that arm of your business.
Oh, okay. And do you do event planning, like social impact event planning also?
Yeah, so that's a big component of what we do. It's really easy for a mid-sized business to come in and host a fundraiser on behalf of a cause or a nonprofit that they care about. So we do the consulting from day one, and we kind of help you find what you care about and what your clients, your business customers care about. And then we help you build a plan around that so that we can implement that. And hosting a volunteer day involves a lot of event logistics. Hosting a fundraiser on behalf of an organization is a relatively easy way to help. So a lot of the work that I do is the large scale event management. So conferences, beneficiary events.
What's one of your favorite events that you've planned?
I'm in my busy season right now, so I'm smiling to keep from crying. My favorite event that I've planned, I just recently did the State of the Region breakfast for the Atlanta Regional Commission, and we had about 1,500 guests. And getting everyone fed in 45 minutes, and also honoring Senator Isaacson and a lot of other dignitaries and just, unsung heroes of Atlanta. It's really fun. It's exhilarating, and I'm really great at managing lots of things at the same time. And so I'm so just thankful that I was able to identify that skill inside of me and utilize it through my business. But definitely, these really big, events that you're like, how am I ever going to get this done? Those are the ones I really love.
That's impressive. And so when you're planning an event like this, how do you come up with the ideas? Do they come to you with it, or are you just like constantly thinking of cool ways to have a social impact event? Where do the ideas come from?
So a lot of my clients don't really know. They care. They wanted to be in business or started to work for a business because they were socially minded and socially conscious, but they don't know necessarily what to do. So, I have a lot of ideas anyways, because this is what I'm passionate about. I mean, it's what I talk, racial equity, gender equity. No one wants to take me out to dinner because they know that I'm just going to talk about controversy. But so this is just kind of like what I breathe and live anyways. So I have a lot of ideas in my head already, but budget plays a big part in how we execute these events. But, I am just a creative in general. And I think that that's a really exciting part, is just coming up with the unique ideas on, how we can sustainably invest in things that make the world a better place.
So I did notice that you're creative when I was doing some research, not to be kind of creepy here, but you've got quite a few side hustles. You've done modeling. You were speaking last night at an engagement, got a shop on Etsy, involved with the Women's Entrepreneurial Opportunity Project, and are involved with cigar making.
Yeah. So I have clients that do a lot of things. Actually the cigar client, it's an IT firm, a large IT firm that invests in various organizations, and their clients like cigars. And so we make that happen at their events. They're able to, host a lot of fundraisers, and make, give a lot of proceeds to organizations doing good in Atlanta based on that premise.
So they're selling cigars to raise money kind of for their organization. Very
hosting events around cigars.
Hosting
absolutely.
Cigar events.
Yeah.
So you really think outside of the box for these events. Oh my gosh. Sounds like a blast.
Thank you.
And you also previously went by a different brand. You just rebranded. Do you want to tell, for people that are familiar with your previous brand, kind of what motivated that and the meaning behind the rebrand?
Sure. Yeah. So several years ago, I started a brand called Rich Beyond Wealth. And it was really to have a conversation about all the things that money can't buy. So companionship, wellness. I mean, if you think about everything that your money can't buy, and that it was a really organic idea, and I was providing consulting services for businesses that gave back. And I think, I am, pivoting my brand to industry impact because I want it to be accessible to all corporations of all sizes. And sometimes, rich beyond wealth, maybe you just don't get it. I mean, to me, it gives me the warm fuzzies, but I just want to make sure that I'm providing this valuable service to anyone that can access it. And, so the rebrand is fun. Rich Beyond Wealth will live on as a storytelling brand. So you will, be able to connect with others and talk about all the ways you're wealthy that money can't buy. And, might have some merch out there and some other events, because I think it's a really important conversation to have. And it's, was the catalyst for me starting this business and my why. So Rich Beyond Wealth will live on. But industry impact is the next the next step in this journey, so that I can make sure that these businesses are getting the services that they need to invest in nonprofits.
So this might be kind of a personal question, but what was your why for starting this business and going into this field?
Oh, I love personal questions. I grew up in a family that it was really hard to make ends meet. And it was always about how much something cost, how little we could pay for something. And it's just like, there's so much more to life than how much something costs, than like how to make a dime. And, I think that it's important to have those conversations, because in all facets of life, you kind of get your hope from from the things that money can't buy. So just, taking from my experiences as a child and as a struggling entrepreneur, and then obviously moving to Atlanta, it was really important that I told that story and I kept that and, sharing my heart in that way.
And so you've had a pretty long career in this industry too. You said over 10 years of experience, or I said that in your intro. What was your proudest moment in your career that you look back on?
Just recently, I produced an event for A3C, which is the world's largest hip hop festival and conference. So it was a conference of over 5,000 attendees. It was a 75,000 square foot space, and we were activating in 30 different venues across the city. And to be the operations manager of an event that large, I actually started out helping them, consulting with them on their social impact programming. So they started out as a canned food drive. That wasn't really working well. So we came up with an idea to do some programming and to support entrepreneurs all over America, with the ideas that they have to use art and music, for good. So helping them transition from a canned food drive to this huge conference, and being the person, managing that entire experience, it makes me proud. It's hard as an entrepreneur to celebrate your wins, but that was definitely one of my proudest moments. Just knowing what it started as and the impact that I was able to build is just, love it.
That's incredible. What a story.
Thank you.
So are there any particular areas that you tend to focus on in terms of clients and their niche that you work with? Is it mostly like IT people, or what kind of companies? If we could send anyone your way, who would it be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think traditional business services, I have a lot of experience supporting, IT, attorneys, professional services, but I also have a lot of clients that are in the civic space, that are in entertainment, music. So it's been really fun to work with clients of all facets and, to find ways to help them give back.
Have you seen an uptick in clients in the entertainment business with all of the entertainment industry that's here now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm very thankful for that. And it's exciting because, seeing Atlanta grow and then also knowing that our social impact communities are growing alongside of it is really important to me.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the West End alone now, that's where a lot of the film production is. And you were there in the heart of it when you moved here. So
definitely,
that's got to be really interesting. So tell us a little bit more about some of the things that made you get into this business and how you use that when you're building these events and you're trying to connect the storytelling, but also have a giant conference. Is that kind of a struggle to get people really emotionally involved in the causes? How do you bridge that gap?
Well, I think there's a lot of work on the back end. We do a lot of research on the who, what, and why. So attendees, what they want to talk about, what they want to experience. And that's an important part of my business too, is getting to know, the conference hosts and the attendees, what their why is. So I think that if I'm able to bring that, the reason why I started into the work that I do, then it's always really fun and really interesting.
Excellent. So if somebody wants to host an event with you, what's the best way to reach you? Where can they find out more?
You can reach me on my website, which is industryimpactevents.com. And that has all my contact info. I'm also on Instagram, Industry Impact, all the socials, Industry Impact.
Excellent. And if they want to hear you speak, do you have any upcoming speaking engagements or conferences you think anyone should attend?
I know someone's going to throw me on the mic at some point.
Right now.
Exactly. I'll have a few coming up that I'll definitely post on my website.
Excellent. Okay. So just one more time, what are your coordinates for people to find you?
industryimpactevents.com. My name is Ashleigh Poff, and you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Industry Impact.
Excellent. So I hope you'll stick around. We've got two more incredible guests. I think you'll really enjoy hearing them speak.
Can't wait. Thank
you. All right. Next up, we've got Esther Kim. She's one of the co-founders of Ethne Health. And Esther Kim is a board-certified family medicine physician and co-founder of Ethne Health, a nonprofit medical clinic located in Clarkston, Georgia. This community is often called the most diverse square mile in America, with over 100 groups and 60 languages represented. Ethne Health helps bridge the Oh my goodness. Bridge the healthcare access gap in the community by providing quality, holistic healthcare and by collaborating with other organizations. So, Esther, why don't you tell us a little bit about how Ethne Health was started?
Thank you, Grace. So the story of how Ethne Health started actually began in 2012 in Memphis, Tennessee. So 4 of us were medical students from different parts of the country. I was a medical student in Texas, and 3 other of our classmates in residency decided to begin our training post-medical school in Memphis, Tennessee. There was a group of clinics in Memphis, Tennessee that were strategically located in inner city, kind of low resource neighborhood. And a lot of the clinics were hiring staff from the community, and a lot of the providers were living in the community. And that was very different than what I've ever seen. And so the 4 of us decided to move there, do our training there, and learn. And we became neighbors with our patients, kind of what you were mentioning earlier. You get to see them beyond just a number on the screen or a name on the page. They became our neighbors. I got to deliver their babies in the hospital. I got to take care of them in the clinic, but I also saw them in their homes. I saw why we call the social determinants of health actually played out. Why some of them are, quote, non-compliant, or diabetic patients are shoveling down rice because that's what they have. And so that really made us our eyes were open and just thinking, what are we going to do next after we graduate from this training program? And so we began talking to our mentors, and he kind of challenged us, and he said, why don't you do something like this in another city of need? And that began our search. We began to look for cities that had high poor health outcomes, as well as people who are not accessing these clinics. And so we visited Baltimore, Maryland, Oakland, California, and Clarkston, Georgia was our 3rd stop. And one of the previous guests on your show, Kitty Murray, the founder of Refuge, she hosted a potluck dinner in her home, invited different nonprofit leaders from the community, and just said, hey, brainstorm with them. What are our needs here in Clarkston? And again, people were saying, we need this, a healthcare place for our patients, for our neighbors that can afford, and some place that they can walk to. And so we moved here 2017, and we've been here since.
Very nice. And so why don't, for the listeners like me who might not know what this means, what are social determinants of health? Can you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, for sure. So it's one of the words that we throw around a lot in public health and medicine. And basically those are things that affect our health. So it could be transportation. If you don't have transportation to go to the grocery store, you can't get good food, healthy foods. It could be something like education. It could be something like your socioeconomic status. So anything that has an impact in your health outside of your medical problems.
And your ability to get access to certain resources.
Correct.
Say. Okay. And so in order to be effective in Clarkston, you probably had to really get to know the community. And so share with us your journey in understanding Clarkston and the role that played in starting Ethne Health.
Yeah, that was a lot of work. I'm sure Ashleigh mentioned briefly when you lived among kind of the friends and the neighbors, things get tricky and sticky. And so when we moved here summer of 2017, we knew we wanted to start a clinic, but we have no idea what people needed, what they really wanted. And so we took time and just visited homes. We visited over 100 homes, with translators, with friends, and just being neighbors, going in to share a meal with them, celebrate birthdays with them, but also asking them, what do you guys need? What are something that you've been waiting for or looking for in the healthcare field? And so kind of 4 things kept coming up. The first thing people were saying, we really wanted a place we can walk to. We don't have transportations. We rely on the MARTA bus or the train. And so if we can't get to somewhere, we won't be able to go. We just call 911, which we don't want to do that if it's not an urgent need. And the second thing people ask and told us was they wanted something that they can access. So a place where both the mom and dad and the kids can go to at the same time. If they have one ride and the whole family needs to see someone, it's either the kids go to the doctor or the parents. And so they wanted a place where the whole family can be seen, as well as flexibility in hours. And so, you know, if you work from 8 to 5 and the clinic also open from 8 to 5, what if you needed help after 5? So they wanted something that they can access at a flexible hour time as well, and seeing the whole family. The third thing that a lot of them kept saying was interpretation services. So with over 60 languages, a lot of the clinics they've been before were not able to provide translation services. Can you imagine being in a country that you don't speak the language, you have a medical need, you're worried, whether it's for your child or yourself, and you can't even explain that. And so that became kind of priority for many of them. If we go to a doctor, can you translate, or will you have someone there translating for us? And then the last thing that kept coming up during these visits was transparency and costs. A lot of them will receive bills in the mail and says, this is not a bill. And then a couple of weeks later that says, this is a bill. And I'm sure all of us have received those before, and we are all native English speakers. And you're like, what is
Yeah, we're
this?
probably just as confused.
Exactly. And so a lot of them just saying, I just need to know how much so I can pay or begin a payment plan, because if they don't understand it, the collector starts coming, knocking on your doors, calling them. They create fear in them. And so they begin to distrust the healthcare system. And when they have a need, they are not going to be able to go. And so that year, so from 2017 to 2018 was crucial for our team, and kind of just living in Clarkston, visiting our neighbors, going to the parks with them, seeing what life is like for different cultures. My son gets to meet with different friends, and my neighbors, they're finally having a doctor as a neighbor. You know, I get to go and to career day for their kids. And so it was crucial in kind of how it shaped the business before it was started.
And so you mentioned there's 60 languages in the Clarkston area, and you guys need people to translate. How many languages are spoken in your office?
So right now in our office, we have one staff that speak 2 languages, and then we have 4 staff that's on call for us.
Okay.
So it's Nepali, Burmese, Swahili, and Arabic. And then if any of them that needs additional languages, we do have translation services that we contracts with, as well as a phone service that we can call if they come. But those are very costly. So it could be $1 to $2 a minute. And I'm having just a basic conversation with the patient. It takes 15 to 30 minutes, and that just keeps going. But we have had patients who speaks a very, very minor dialect, but then the family member would speak French, and then would speak French to our interpreter, and the interpreter would speak English to me.
Wow.
And so you're just playing this telephone game so that the patient is able to express what their needs are. Because we might not have a translator in that particular dialect. We may have a translator in the major languages that they could speak as well.
Do the translators have to be trained in medical? Okay. So
Yeah. So a lot of them, because it's a medical setting, because medical personnel, we're bound by laws like confidentiality, HIPAA. We don't prefer having the family members translate, because they might not know the particular terms. You don't want someone from the community just come in and translate, and then they see someone else at the grocery store later and said, oh, so-and-so had a rash, you know. And so it is important for us to keep the confidentiality as well as provide excellent care by providing medically trained interpreters for our patients.
And they may not want to disclose certain information around
That's very
certain
true.
family members too. So
Yeah.
that's a huge service. What are some of the other ways you guys have helped address those challenges in the Clarkston community? I know you also mentioned just explaining medical bills and, keeping the price affordable for the community, I would imagine, is a challenge.
Yeah, so healthcare is not cheap. I'm sure we all recognize that. And the U.S. healthcare system is very complicated. I think for us that are, have experience here. And so a couple of things that we've really tried to do. So transparency of costs. We do try to keep the cost down. And in order to do that, we do a lot of fundraising, right, for grants, depend on kind of individual donors that will give to the clinic. We also do a lot of health screenings or health outreach in the community. We know that people who are healthy or think they're healthy, they're not going to walk into the clinic until you kind of just talk to them. Hey, do you have these symptoms? Have you experienced this X, Y, and Z? And so community outreach is a biggest portion of kind of how we spend our time. Also going to city council meetings, being involved in advocating for our patients, because we know that health doesn't happen in a vacuum. So they can drive from their house to our clinic, and if they hit a pothole, get into a car accident, then health begins in our clinic. But we need to fix that pothole on their way to the clinic. So we talk to the city manager, kind of raising awareness of what's going on. And as a neighbor, I also drive by those potholes every day. And so I want to make sure those are being fixed. One of our patients had a particular medical illness, and she was just not getting better. And so we finally approached the apartment complexes and asked the owner, hey, can you guys just clean this place? Can you just figure out if something else is going on? And they did. And she got better. And so a lot of things does not happen in the clinic. So a lot of kind of advocating for their social determinants of health, like we were talking about earlier, does occur outside of the clinic as well.
Wow, that is incredible. So how do you become a patient? Is there, I imagine you have a really high demand for people that want to get into the clinic.
No, actually we, because we're a medical clinic, I was trained to take care of patients well. I take care of patients well regardless of their ability to pay. And so we do see both insured and underinsured or uninsured patients. So, my parents can be patients of the clinic. My child's a patient of the clinic. Or patients who are not able to pay, they can also be a patient of the clinic. So if you don't have insurance, if you have insurance, we will see you. You just have to call to make an appointment.
Or come to one of the health screenings, right?
Screenings, correct.
Where do you guys do those?
So all throughout Clarkston. So we try to partner with events that's already happening in Clarkston. Usually during the spring and summertime because it's not as cold and people will be out there hanging out anyway. So a lot of the events are hosted in the apartment complexes where the refugees or our community neighbors are living. And so usually a lot of it could be a school is having a back to school bash and then we'll be there. A leasing office is doing a promo and we'll be there. A garden is doing a spring garden festival. We'll be there. And so a lot of these events can be found on our website and our Facebook page or on the city's website. If there's an event, 9 times out of 10 we'll be there.
Excellent. And what is your website?
Sure. It's www.ethnehealth, E-T-H-N as in Nancy, E-health.org, O-R-G.
And so what's the meaning behind the name? I imagine there's probably a pretty obvious explanation, but.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So ethne is actually the Greek word for all people group. So kind of the root word for ethnic. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of different ethnic and our goal is to take care of everyone from everywhere. There's no discrimination whether you can't speak English, or you speak a little English, your ability to pay, any gender preferences, religion preferences. We want to take care of all people. And so we chose that word, even though it's hard to say and mispronounce a lot. We do believe that is the heart of what we're doing, why we're doing.
Very cool. And so what are some future goals for Ethne Health?
Yeah, so we've opened for a year now. We opened October 24th, 2018, and we have 1 year under our belt. With our patients, we saw over 1,000 patients in the first year, and a lot of people are bringing up ideas of what they need. So dentistry is one of the things that people are asking us. Do you guys have a dentist? I can't pull teeth. I'm a medical physician. You don't want me to pull your teeth. But we are trying to probably in the next 3 to 5 years have dentistry in the area that is affordable for our neighbors. We're also looking to hire more staff from the community. That's one of our strengths, is that we really want to invest in the community. So we hire people from the community. They speak the languages. They go through the training. They can also give back to the community. So we want to hire more staff from the community. We hope to have more behavioral health. I know that's one of the big areas that our friends are unable to get care because it's expensive or unable to get in because of different issues. And so we really want to have a better kind of behavioral health component to our clinic.
And so by behavioral health, you mean like psychology,
therapy, psychiatry. Correct.
Oh, wow. So you're going to need some therapists that speak a lot of languages.
Yeah, or therapists who are interested in people from overseas, the trauma that they've gone through, and then willing to work with our interpreters.
Yeah. So do you know what the process is to be a refugee and get relocated? For some of the listeners that, most of us are born and raised in the same place or same country and may not have gone through that experience. Yeah.
So refugee is actually a political title that they, assigned to someone who has been displaced from their home, whether it's because of religion issues or political issues. And so they're fleeing their country, not because they signed up for a visa and leaving. They were almost ripped away from their homes. Many of our patients, just because they're refugees doesn't mean they're illiterate. A lot of them were business people in their countries, physicians. They were working good jobs in their countries and they had to flee because of the unrest. And so once they flee, they either go to a refugee camp or a nearby country. And at that point, they apply for the vetting process, where they get to just apply for refugee status. Once they do that, they wait on average 2 to 5 years. I'm not even sure how long the process is now until a receiving country will receive them. And so there are many, many receiving countries in the world. They're in Europe, Canada, US is one of them, and only about 15,000 or more, 50,000, I'm sorry, I'm probably misquoting it, get to come to the U.S. And so they've gone through extensive process, medical background checked, all that application process before they get here. And once they get to the U.S., they get to go to one of the states, and then the states get to decide which city they go to. And so in the state of Georgia, many of them come to Clarkston. Some of them go to Savannah, and the resettlement agencies, which are these organizations that receive funding from the federal government to take care of these refugees, begin the process of helping them to be self-sufficient, help them find a job, give them ESL resources, take them to a doctor if they have any illness. And so that's kind of the process. And ultimately, they come here and they're a part of our community. They hold jobs. They add to what we do. One of our neighbors catered, is trying to start a catering business. And so is now cooking for different events we have, trying to practice, what it's like to cater. And we get to taste and be beneficiary of that because she's like, would you like to sample this? Or we have patients who were plumbers in their country and now trying to get certification or become apprentices here so they can do that here as well.
That's incredible. So if somebody wants to donate to your organization, how can they do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are a nonprofit, so you can donate online at our website, www.ethnehealth.org. There's a donate link there, or mail us a check in the mail, and that address can also be found on our website.
Excellent. And if someone wants to be a patient?
Call 470-799-0044 or send us an inquiry on our website.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us and educating us about what you do today. We've got one last guest. I hope you'll stick around.
Yes, thank you so much.
Excellent. So up next is Cody Turner with Sofar Sounds. And Sofar Sounds is a live intimate music venue. Cody is the director in Atlanta.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Grace. Yeah, I work with Sofar Sounds Atlanta. I'm the city director. And so what we do is actually we host events all over the city. So our events may be in someone's living room or they may be at a local business. We've done them in bookstores. We've done them at breweries. We've done them there was a bookstore that had a full theater in the back, which was really neat. So we try to find very interesting places around the city, and then we bring our events to them.
And so they're secret events, right? Yeah.
So the way it works is they're secret events. So when guests sign up, they don't know if they'll be invited, they don't know where it is, and they don't know what the lineup is. So everything kind of works like on a lottery basis. So when someone signs up, they'll see the neighborhood. So they'll see, okay, so like for example, we have a show tomorrow in Old Fourth Ward. So that's what they see when they sign up, a time and a place. They sign up for that event, and we send a subset of the people that apply an invitation. So then when they get an invitation, that's when they can buy tickets. And then about 36 hours before the show, they'll be sent the address to say, hey, this is where the show is, whether it's at someone's house or if it's at a business or something like that. And then they find out the lineup when they get there. So
wow.
When people walk in, they get a little slip with the artist's like social handles. And the whole idea is that you'll come and, hear something that you don't expect. So we curate a diverse lineup of artists. So they could be a mixture of local or touring artists. It'll be like a mixture of music styles, or like, I'm just trying to think, for a show that we had last Monday or a couple Mondays ago, there was like a rock duo band, and then the second act was a spoken word artist, and then the third was a jazz guitarist. So because people don't know what they're going to really get into, we try to like give them a showcasing of different styles of different arts that are in their city.
And so that sounds like something that's, since it's top secret, it might be kind of hard to catch on. However, the origins of Sofar go back to London, right?
Yeah. So Sofar was started 10 years ago in London. It was just started by a few friends who went to see their favorite band, and they enjoyed the show, but they kind of got overwhelmed with what they saw as like the distractions of a typical music event. Things like people talking, people showing up for one act and not the other, the clinking of glasses in the background when like there's like supposed to be a quiet part in the song. So they just went up to their favorite band and said, hey, do you guys want to play in our tiny apartment. And so they said yes. And so the first Sofar show was just in a really, like I said, small apartment with about 10 people there. And at the end of that show, they just kind of like passed a hat around and they split that with the artists. And so Rafe, our founder, he did that for about 4 years, before his wife was like, you spend over half of your time doing this and you're not making any money. So he got some investors on board and turned it into a bona fide company. So, and then, in that process, he just had strangers reaching out to him from all over the world, first in Paris. And then I think the second city was Houston and then New York, and saying, how can I do this in my city? Like what you're doing, you're, highlighting local acts around the city people love, and they really listen. So, one really important part about our shows is we try to recreate that first experience for all of our shows. So we have whether we're in someone's living room or we're in a business, we tell everyone, there's no talking during the performance. People come knowing that they're going to stay for the whole show. We do 3 acts that are 20 minutes apiece. So that's about 4 songs. So it's just enough time, I think, to know whether or not you're going to like an artist. People come with the expectation that they're going to be sitting on the floor. And as much as that was born out of necessity, having small apartments, trying to lug chairs from different spaces. But it's really turned into a way to maintain that atmosphere. There's something about everyone sitting on the floor is kind of like an equalizer. People are just much more willing to turn and talk to their neighbor, if everyone doesn't have a chair for some reason.
And so how many cities are you guys in now?
It's somewhere north of 400 cities. So that's all over the world. And, cities like, in the US and Canada, they work on a ticketed system where guests can know, what to pay to go to the show. But in the vast majority of international cities, it still works on a pass the hat system where guests aren't charged, to buy a ticket beforehand. But when they go to the door, they might pay at the door, or they might just pass a hat around at the end, and all of that goes to the artist.
And so do you guys pass out invitations by carrier pigeon, or how does that work?
People can go to our website to apply for the shows.
Okay.
You can apply for as many shows as you want to. And if you get invited, then you get an invite email where you can go and purchase the tickets.
And so you can apply to go to a show, but you can also apply to be a host, right?
Yeah, definitely. We are always looking for people to host. Like I said, we host in living rooms. We host in small businesses. We really look for places that, one, local businesses are a really important place for us to host, because we think it's important not only to showcase the artists that are in the city of Atlanta, but the entrepreneurs and the businesses that are in the city of Atlanta. Also looking for mission-driven organizations. So whether that is an actual nonprofit that has a space that hosts a show, or if we're just going to be at a residential show, we make sure that we tell the person that's hosting, it's hey, if there's anything that you want everyone else to know about, you can do that. At every single show, we provide a space for our hosts to get up and tell people, what the story is behind their space, what's their purpose for being there, how to get engaged with it after the show. Because like I said, it's 2 things where we want to pull people into their community, both in the art that's created and the businesses.
And you support the artists too, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, it's all about supporting the artists. Yeah.
So what are some things you do to support them?
So I think Sofar is it's such an interesting, fit into an artist's career. So one is that because they are secret lineups and they're secret locations, a lot of artists will tack on Sofar shows to their regular tour. So it's not really meant to replace, a bar that an artist might play, or trying to get a regular gig, or opening up for a bigger headliner. Because of the whole secret lineup thing, there's this thing that artists have to deal with a lot, what are called radius clauses. So when, let's say, an artist is going to perform at a venue on Saturday, that venue may say, yes, you can definitely play with us on Saturday, but you can't play anywhere else on Saturday, and you also can't play anywhere Friday or Sunday. Because our locations aren't announced, that doesn't conflict. So an artist can pick up more shows without breaking that clause.
As long as they're top secret.
Yeah, well, yeah, as long as, which they are.
Carrier pigeon invitation.
Yeah, right.
We're here. I get you. Okay. What was one of the biggest artists or an artist we may recognize?
Oh, yeah. There was a big list of artists that all won Grammys that have played us so far at some point. I think some names that really people recognize is Billie Eilish. She played a show with us about 4 years ago in New York. So like, right when she was really getting started. Ed Sheeran is someone that has played Sofar shows before. There are sometimes where we'll have bigger acts like the National decided that after they toured a lot, they wanted to have they wanted to like reconnect themselves to live music. So they decided to do some shows with Sofar because our shows are very stripped back. So because they're in living rooms, they might be in like big office buildings. We try to work without microphones. There might be like a small amp if an artist has like an electrical instrument that they need to play. So you got no microphones. Everyone's sitting on the floor. You're in a really small space. I would say our average show size is about 60 people. And so it really is an environment where the number one thing that matters is the music. Everyone's there for the music. Everyone's got their undivided attention while the music's going on. But you can also have a conversation with the artist, before, during, after the show. I talk to people all the time that said, I went to this show by myself and I made these 3 friends that I've been in touch with for years, or I met this artist and now I see them every time they're in Atlanta. It's a really great way for artists to gain fans, because they can be guaranteed that no one in the room has heard them before because they didn't know they were going to be there. So they can only walk out of the room with more fans.
That's a good point. And I feel like that's the best way to see Billie Eilish. Yes. I saw Billie Eilish at Music Midtown and everyone was singing her songs, which was great. The crowd energy was amazing. But like you said, it was one of those experiences where you just heard people talking and drinks being, clinked and passed around and you could barely hear Billie. So in a small room, sitting on the floor, asking her questions, that sounds incredible.
Yes. One of the things that, cause every city's a little different so far, cause they're all run by individual teams. I run the team here in Atlanta. One of the things that we do here in Atlanta that I really like is like very short, like artist Q&As after the set. So we really encourage people, hey, go up to the merch table, talk to the artist, buy something. I tell people there's no greater joy in life than just directly handing an artist money. So even if they don't have a merch at the merch table, you could still give them money. But so yeah, we really encourage people to just make a real connection with the artist that they like. Go up to them in person and say, hey, I really enjoyed it. So in order to like kind of spur that, we do audience Q&As where right after the set, we'll just say, hey, who has questions? The MC may have questions for the artist to kind of like dig deeper into it. And yeah, I haven't been to any other show where there were guests that were talking to the artist for about 10 minutes, and then the artist goes, oh, well, it's my turn to go up now. And they had no idea that they were there to perform,
Oh, my gosh. That is hysterical. So how did you wind up, being the city director for Atlanta so far? Yeah,
so every city starts off as a volunteer city. So that means someone just reached out to Sofar and says, hey, I would like to do this in my city. So I was not the person to do that in Atlanta. Sofar Atlanta started about 6 years ago. So really not that long after Sofar started expanding. Atlanta was started here in Atlanta. Or Sofar was started here in Atlanta. And, I had friends that were like involved very early on. When I was in college, I was told, hey, we're going to host this concert at your house. It's called Sofar. And at the time I was like, well, it kind of sounds like any other Friday. So, I didn't really like pay attention to it that much. But it was about 2 years ago that I got a call from one of those friends that said, hey, we're doing a show that's like just down the street from your house and we need an MC. Can you help? And I was like, man, if you guys are cold calling me to ask help, you need help. So I decided to go over there and help them. And so it was at a show on the West End side of town at a place called The Bakery.
Yeah.
It was the first Sofar show that I had been to. And it was a blast. It was really fun. And I saw it as like a really different music experience and also saw it as like a really cool way to explore and discover Atlanta. So I just went up to the people that were running it at the time and said, hey, I'd love to help out. They said, great, we need it. So at the time, there was like a team of 5, and we were just a volunteer team putting on 4 shows a month, which was a lot in hindsight. And I did that on a volunteer basis for about a year and a half. And then Sofar had a meetup where they brought a bunch of volunteer cities together. It was actually in Georgia. So I went to that, and they gave us like all these really exciting plans about what was coming up, and it gave me a lot of ideas. So me and the person that was helping me run the city at the time, we went to Sofar and said, hey, how about all of these things? And they said, how about we just hire someone and you guys can do that? And so we were like, okay, sure. Yeah. So that happened in April. I took that job. I left my software engineering job that I was doing before to do that. So it was a really big career
change,
shift.
yeah.
It was pretty big. So that started in April. So I've been working with them since April.
Excellent. But you've been working with Sofar for
about
years
2 years.
now.
Yeah.
So you've got it down to a science. Do you have a team under you, or is it just you
It's
secretly
big
making
team,
this magic
big team.
happen?
Yes. So, I'm the city director, but each of the shows are run by a team of people that was also a volunteer team. It's actually really exciting. Like that's a like really important thing about Sofar. It just really started from someone's hobby, and then someone like that hobby being contagious in other people. And now as Sofar grows, it's evolving, I would say, pretty quickly. So right now we have what we call an ambassador team, and those are the people that are at the shows. Those are the ones that are emceeing the shows. They're, making the introductions between the hosts and the artists. They're helping with setup and cleanup, all that kind of stuff. That team, we have about 35 people on. So we have about maybe 2 to 4 people at each of those shows. And then we also have an assistant director who completely focuses on the artist. So they make sure that the artist is being booked, that they're getting all the communication. Like if we do videos or photos, that they get those afterwards. And so what I really do is I manage that ambassador team, do the staffing and scheduling. I'm the person that's always looking for venues or for people to host, and, doing things like this.
So how do people get involved as a volunteer or a part of the team in some way?
So this is a big transition period. So, we're Sofar as of like last week rolling out a program called Sofar Crew. And what that's doing, it's basically taking our current ambassador program and paying them for the show work that they do now. So like right now it's really everyone that's on the ambassador team just has a real love for live music and for the local artists, and they do it in their spare time. But now we're going to transition that to a part-time, paid-time gig position. So what I would tell people now is you can apply to that crew position if you go to Sofar's website, and our ambassador team is still going to be going strong, and it's a great program. It gives you a free Sofar membership, which is 50% off tickets. It also gives you 2 free shows, and you get to see the lineups, you get to see the locations, you get to pick, what shows you want to go to, and you're encouraged to show up at load-in time to talk to the artists, to help out with anything that you want to help out with. So that's what I would tell everyone to do. Just go to sofarsounds.com/Atlanta, and you've got a few different options. If you'd like to be an artist, you can apply. If you'd like to be a host, you can apply. And if you'd like to volunteer, you can apply. They're all right there next to each other.
And if I want to go to a show, there's an app, right?
There is an app. Yeah, you can download the app, and that'll have all of our shows there. You can apply for as many shows as you'd like, and if you get invited, that'll come straight to your inbox.
How easy is it to get invited?
I would say it really depends on the time of year. I would say like in the summer, it was very, very difficult to get into a show. In certain cities, it's almost impossible to get into a show. Like it was Istanbul had 2,000 applications per show, and they do like one show a month. I just talked to someone who said that they tried to go to a show. I can't remember, in some international city, they didn't get in. They tried to go to 2 shows in Atlanta, they didn't get in. So they just bought a membership, and then that's guaranteed invite. So then they knew they were going to get to go to their next show.
How much is a membership?
It's like $10.99, $11 a month. And the
That's
ticket.
it?
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah,
That's a steal.
It's a pretty good deal. Ticket prices, it depends on the day of the week, but they range between $16 and $20. So if you get a $20 show and you have a membership, it doesn't take long for that to make sense.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Wow. And you get to see who's playing, or is that just for ambassadors?
That's just for ambassadors.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Got it. Cool. Well, tell us some more, just one more time, where we can find the list of shows. No artists or locations.
Right. Yeah. Just the neighborhoods. It's sofarsounds.com/Atlanta. You can find us on any of the social media at Sofar ATL. You can download the app, make Atlanta your home city. You can sign up for the newsletters. You'll be the first to hear about all of the shows. You can see a bunch of our videos on YouTube for both Sofar shows in Atlanta and Sofar shows all over the world if you want to check it out, see what it looks like before buying a ticket.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap it up. I think we're about out of time. But once again, this is Grace Hayden with Atlanta Cares Radio. Thanks for tuning in.